Yesterday, Yoshi released a minor update for a few Deadlock heroes to perhaps address some heroes that felt a little bit weaker or a little bit not meta. And on top of that, he gave us an update of when we could expect the big content patch to arrive. So we already knew it would be in January, but some people were hoping that it would be like, the first days of January, but he gave us a little bit more clarity on that. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? With Yoshi, apparently this dude never takes a break. I was playing some games last night, 11 o'clock, we're queuing up another game, and then suddenly it's just like, update available. We're like, what the heck? It's like 10 p.m. in Seattle, like 10:30 in Seattle right now, and they're pushing updates to Deadlock. So this guy apparently is just a fiend, constantly at the PC. But
Yep.
yeah, we're gonna start things off today by just talking about the patch in general, what we got last night. For those of you who maybe woke up today and is like, what? Why? How is there a patch? Like it's bright and early. We were just as surprised as you. There's some cool updates though. I like you said, this it's a lot of stuff that's mostly buffs. A couple like just tweaks, I would say, to certain heroes that are maybe not super meta or giving them more of like an identity or like an idea of how you know they want these heroes to be played in a way without like kind of forcing it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think it's also just like buffing parts of the heroes kits that felt underwhelming. As always, guys, like the patch notes will be linked below if you want to check them out for yourself. But if you're listening, on your drive or on your walk, actually, I would love for you guys to let us know in the comments what you're doing while listening to this podcast. Are you playing the game? Are you like just chilling at your computer? Are you doing chores? Are you on your commute? I would love to know because I'm always really curious, like what people are doing while listening to the podcast. Personally, I'm usually like either doing chores or at my computer. But yeah, let's talk about this update, and I'm just gonna kind of read off the changes. I'm not gonna read them off exactly one by one, but just talk about them. So if you're listening just audio only, you can have a decent idea. They started with Bebop, and these are pretty much all buffs across the board, mostly addressing two things: his stamina as well as his bomb. Okay,
Yeah.
and his health. So they gave him 3 stamina base. However, it's a little bit of a, I want to say, poisoned apple type of situation because he gets 3 stamina, but he is now the hero in the game with the slowest stamina regeneration. So just so you guys know, every hero in the game, their stamina regeneration is 4.55 seconds, except 2 heroes, Mina and Kelvin. Kelvin is longer, Mina is significantly shorter. Now, Bebop joins Mina and Kelvin as the 3rd hero with a different stamina regeneration. And he has a 6-second stamina regen now. So it went from 4.55 to 6, which is massive nerf, but he gets an extra starting stamina now. So he doesn't have 2 stamina in the laning stage. So, in some situations, it's going to be a buff. In some situations, it's going to hurt him a little bit. But overall, a buff. And they also made him tankier with his health per boon going from 46 to 52. Now, I don't know if you play any Bebop, Mr. rkryptic. Do you play Bebop at all?
I think I played it for the first time last night, right after this update. And I didn't even look to see if there was an update. So I got him and I didn't even know that there were changes. So uh the real answer is no, but I've watched a lot of Bebop because I'm a big Average Jonas enjoyer. So, I've seen a lot of Bebop over the years.
Over the years, talking as if Deadlock has been out for
Over the
like a decade.
years.
Like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
over the years we've seen Bebop's
The
evolution from
12
a
months.
scrap metal golem into the unit that Bebop now is. Now, unfortunately, I mean, it's very well known I don't like Bebop, but that's okay. Like, the hero was not very
Canonic.
good, especially the bomb build, and a lot of people were still going bomb because people
Yeah.
like the bomb build and they think it's fun. And so Valve decided, hey, let's throw them a bone. So on top of making him tankier and giving him 3 stamina, they also increased the bomb spirit scaling by like a ton in multiple ways. Okay. So first of all, the base bomb spirit scaling was increased from 1.1 to 1.5, which is like insane. But then they did a sneaky little change, which is the stacks that you gain per hero hit and per hero kill were nerfed at the beginning, but those stacks now scale with spirit, which is very confusing. Okay, so
Yep.
in order to make it simple, just understand that you're going to get 2 multipliers. Like, it's going to multiply on top of a multiplier. So it's going to take your base bomb damage, Then it's going to multiply it by the stacks that you have, which are going to be multiplied by your spirit as well, those stacks. And then it's going to take that number, and then it's going to add some like spirit scaling to it. So it's going to be, you're probably going to be able to hit much, much higher damage than you could previously. I didn't do testing, but I wouldn't be surprised if we were seeing like sticky bombs doing like, 800, 1,000 damage later in the game for sure. So it's a lot. It's a lot for sure. And I think, rkryptic's testing it right now in the range so we can get a number. But
Yeah, I decided to look
um
at it really quick. I was like, let me see if I can look at the actual numbers. But
yeah,
so
I mean it's, yeah, you might struggle to like find the exact number without actually like leveling up your boons, and you're also really going to want boundless on this hero.
yeah.
I think that the stacks overall are probably like nerfed until you get like a decent amount of spirit. Like how much spirit do you have right now? Because right now your stacks are better than previously.
Yeah.
um now press escape real quick just so we can see. Yeah, hold tab. Nope.
Uh,
Oh, sorry guys,
yeah,
we're, yep, okay,
128
128 spirit.
spirit, and so
Yeah,
it
so
definitely
I
feels
think,
like the actual stack damage is lower until you have like boons and stuff, like the actual amount of stacking you get. But like you said, the bonus that as you build stacks, you're also gaining more bombs, like bomb spirit scaling. So there
yeah.
is potential that it will get there. I think generally they don't want this to be like such a gimmick in the early game, because if you played against Bebop in lane, anyone in the last like several months, there he's just like a psychopath running directly at you, just like I'm gonna get you until he like puts
Yeah,
a
yeah,
bomb on
yeah,
you and runs away, right? And uh,
yep.
it's just like it's hilarious to some extent, but it's also really like not a good way for the hero to be played. And so I think this helps address that, where now like going out of your way to get 1% bomb damage instead of 1.5 early on in the lane, like you're getting 50% less stacks over, you know, the entirety of the early game. So I do like that it just has generally more spirit scaling for damage, but it's less of a gimmick on the stacking part, if that makes sense.
Yeah, feels like you can actually invest into it. Whereas previously, like, really the only way that it would work is if you got like an insane snowball start. And then, and then you could invest into it, right? Because you got a great start. Now it feels like, hey, even if you don't have an amazing start, you can still invest into it and be rewarded. So probably good. We'll see. I mean, the bomb build is still easily counterable. I mean, debuff remover and counterspell both like fully counter the bomb build.
Yeah.
So I don't really foresee this being like too OP, but it's definitely, especially at lower ranks, I think that this might surprise people with how much damage it's going to be able to do. So I think the moment you have 100 spirit, you're going to be doing like a lot more damage than you were previously on average, probably.
Mhm.
So yeah, but speaking of tax, the next hero that got buffed is Grey Talon.
That's cool.
And the Grey Talon also has a stack mechanic on the guided Owl, and that was one thing that was buffed. So it went from 5 spirit per kill to 8. So they're buffing the stack mechanics, it seems. And, with Grey Talon, they were very careful about what they buffed, because we're going to talk about Grey Talon later in the,
Spoilers.
yeah, spoiler. We're going to talk about Grey Talon later as a hero in the curiosity corner. But, it's not very fun when you just get one shot by his first ability. And so
Yeah.
they didn't buff his first ability at all. Instead, they buffed Rain of Arrows, which is a second ability where he goes in the air and shoots you. And they buffed the Guided Owl. Okay, so these are all fairly slight buffs. Like, to be honest, I don't really think these are going to change too much. But Rain of Arrows has a shorter cooldown. And now the max upgrade also gives you bullet evasion, which I believe is only the third ability in the game that gives you bullet evasion. I'm pretty sure that the only two that existed previously were Mirage and Haze,
Yep. Those
where
are my
Haze
ones
gets
that I
bullet
knew.
evasion on max ult and Mirage gets bullet evasion on Tornado. So that's interesting, but basically Grey Talon should get rewarded more for owl kills early, and I think that we might see a little bit more Grey Talon around. Who knows? Sometimes you just need a little something.
Honestly, like this was one of the heroes that um I played during the holiday event, and I went the gun build. It doesn't feel that bad. It just needs some time to cook is the problem. But it is very like comp matchup based, and this is one of those things where it's like the T3 bullet evasion legitimately helps fix a lot of the major issues with this, where you're like you go into the air and everyone just shoots you because you can't, you don't move very fast. So it does help with some of the bullet or with some of the other like gun hero matchups, which is nice. So maybe we'll see some gun talent come out, but hard to say. It'd be cool. I want him to come back. It's just not in a one shot me, two shot me power shot type of way. So
Yeah, not a one shot me from across the map. That's really the problem. Is like if a hero one shots you, that's one thing if they have to commit for it. But Grey Talon, when he was really strong, would just like just kill you instantly from across the map without having to commit to it. So that's kind of the general issue. But regardless, they've buffed other things. And moving on to the next hero that was buffed, we've got Holiday. So
woo.
Holiday got a very very slight buff. Powder keg cooldown was reduced by 4 seconds. That's significant, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't call it like a huge buff.
Yeah,
But lasso no longer gets removed by divine barrier. In fact, the wording is lasso fixed lasso being removed by divine barrier. So
it
they're
was a
basically
bug.
insinuating it was a bug, which lots of things in the game are bugs, and sometimes they choose to leave them in. So I'm guessing that with the lasso thing, they probably chose to leave it in for a while because Holiday was like insanely dominant, and then they're like, okay, Holiday's not as dominant anymore. Let's just remove that interaction from the game. So slight buffs for the cowboy lady.
Yeah, that was one of those things where even the wording on Divine Barrier said it shouldn't have worked on removing Lasso. So it was kind of like one of those moments of like, it's definitely bugged. But yeah, I think for the reason you said, like the hero was too good. They're just like, we'll just leave this in until she's in a better spot. Um, Ivy, the next hero that they decided to adjust, and this one's actually kind of cool. So all of her changes are mostly for the support Ivy in a way. So these are all buffs to Watcher's Covenant. The replicated healing was increased from 25 to 35%, and then the healing now scales with boons by zero point 0.5. So by the end of the game, you can add an extra 17.5% healing to this because you get 35 boons per game at max level, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty huge. Like that's a lot of healing that can be replicated between Watcher's Covenant now. And then ally airdrop damage penalty was reduced from 30 to 20%. So this is like if you pick up an ally as opposed to just like dropping the airdrop bomb, it doesn't have less damage now, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm always a big fan of this. Support Ivy has been kind of, I would say, underrepresented for a long time.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen it much, and it's kind of a shame because all of Ivy's kit really makes for a great support when you think about it. Like Kudzu offers wave clear and area control / denial. Watcher's Covenant gives fire rate and healing, so obviously a great support ability, and her ultimate gives her kind of like a semi-global presence with an incredibly powerful silence. Like
Yep.
support
It's
Ivy hasn't
huge.
been meta for so long that people forgot how strong Ivy's max ultimate is because you can't dispel it other than with divine barrier. Right? So you can't debuff remove it, like you can't remove, like you're just silenced. And I remember like way back when I was playing competitively, support Ivy was pretty good back then. And she was like a huge counter to some big team fight heroes. For example, Kelvin. Because
Mhm.
like with Kelvin, you either needed to go like unstoppable, right? To like or like divine barrier. And now divine barrier has gotten a lot of popularity, so now it's like doesn't feel as bad, but still like having such a massive silence on the ult is really, really powerful. And yeah, I'm glad to see support Ivy get some love. I like playing support Ivy way more than I like playing gun Ivy. And so that's actually like how I did my holiday challenge on Ivy was with the support build. So I'm happy with this.
Nice. So the next hero, actually, which is funny enough, is Kelvin that they will go ahead and make some changes to. Um, the first change is to the frost grenade, and the tier 3 now also reduces stamina regeneration by 30%, which is a pretty massive buff because I think a lot of the builds are max grenade anyway. So this is something that you get online pretty early. It's like max grenade or max shelter depending on what you need for the game. So this is something you'll have fairly early. And then the ice path tier 3, max spirit power is now buffed from 55 to 75, and then the duration of that spirit power is from 6 seconds to 8 seconds. And this is the spirit power that you gain based on distance that you travel. So the
Yeah.
longer you're on your path, the further you're going, the more spirit power you gain. Previously, it capped at 55. Now they added 20 additional spirit to that, which is cool. Gives him a little bit more, potential for in a weird way the beam build, because a lot of it is you just hold down
Yeah.
ice path and just fire your beam at them and chase heroes until they die. So that's a lot of extra spirit.
There's a lot of extra spirit, 75 extra spirit, and that probably interacts with Boundless,
Hmm.
I would guess, as it gets multiplied. So sorry about that. My nose is a little stuffy, but regardless, that's a lot of spirit, and I'm happy to see these changes. I think with Kelvin and these heroes, it's like Kelvin's been nerfed so many times just because of one of his abilities, right?
Yeah.
And like everything else about his kit got nerfed, and so basically the only viable way to play Kelvin is Dome. So, and this is something that you can have for a discussion, but when you have a hero that's really powerful with one ability, do you nerf the rest of his kit to compensate for that one ability being so strong, or do you address the problematic ability? Now, we could talk about that for a long time. I don't really want to get into that conversation, but just food for thought for everybody in the audience. But that's what happened to Kelvin, by the way. Like, Frozen Shelter was so powerful that everything else about Kelvin got nerfed. Literally everything else about him, right? I mean, okay, to be fair, Gun Kelvin was actually kind of broken, so that was a justified
That
justified
was a
nerf. But
justified one.
other than that, right, the rest of his abilities on average would just get nerfed, and his base regen got nerfed, and his laning stage got nerfed, etc., etc. All to, from my perspective, compensate for the overall strength that Frozen Shelter gives. And Frozen Shelter is still incredibly powerful. Like, some people come into my chat and be like, I don't think Kelvin's that good. And I'm like, well, here's the thing. All you need is one big Frozen Shelter around a mid boss fight or around like an important team fight, and that can win you the game. And so, like, it also, like, it still kind of gives you free urns.
Yeah.
Like, you can just shelter your teammate, and they can just capture the urn. So I'm glad to see them buffing other parts of Kelvin's kit just to make it a little bit more viable. We'll see if this makes it so people aren't. I mean, there's always kind of a placebo effect when these patches come through where people are going to test the new builds. And that does keep the game fresh, right? And I think that's a big reason why they do these hotfix patches, is just like, hey, let's just try to keep the game fresh a little bit for the people that are playing and give them different avenues to explore. Even if the changes might not be like super significant, sometimes just doing a change makes people try new things.
I like that. I like that. It is one of those, even if it's just like the most minor changes, or stuff like that, like even item changes. You're like, oh, I used to build it on this hero. Let's see what this can do now. The
Yeah.
next hero in the patch is Mo and Krill, and this one's pretty cool. So Mo and Krill, they actually adjusted Burrow's initial knockup vertical detection, which I'm assuming this means it's just going to hit in a larger AOE, and if it is going to hit you, it's going to knock them up in a way, and do the
I mean,
damage. It's the
it's kind of
wording's
unclear
ambiguous.
exactly what
Yeah,
it means. I'm guessing that it just means there were situations in which it should have knocked people up, but it didn't for
yeah.
whatever reason. Let's say they were up in the air or jumping or something. So, I doubt that the AoE itself is actually bigger. It's probably just working as intended. Now, in practice, this should feel as, the AoE being slightly bigger, but by how much? Who knows?
Yeah. The next thing are all buffs to Sandblast. So Sandblast now deals a fixed 40 damage, no scaling or anything, but just does a little bit of damage, which is, nice. But the big buff is that Sandblast can now be cast while burrowed, just like Scorn or Warpstone, Carpet, all your other, fun stuff. The T2 Sandblast has an increased cooldown reduction from 19 to 23 seconds. And the tier 3 also now reduces dash distance by
Yeah.
40%, which is
Yep.
insane.
Yep. So that brings up a great point to talk about. So first of all, these changes are probably some of the most significant changes in the entire update. Like, I'm looking at the other heroes and I'm like, I'm pretty sure Mo got the most significant changes. Maybe Bebop, you could argue. The Grey Talon, Holiday, Ivy, Kelvin changes, like, they don't really fundamentally change too much. They're more just adjustments. This actually changes a lot fundamentally about the hero. So first of all, Sandblast was probably Mo's most underrated ability. It was actually like already pretty good. Especially like the first point in, which gave you an extra duration. To me, it was kind of crazy to see Mo players just like completely skip it. But maybe it was because it felt clunky because you couldn't use it in Burrow. But now, so two things. First of all, the dash slow, as well as the Kelvin change and many changes that have happened in the last couple of months, show kind of Valve's new understanding of how to implement slows in the game, which is Valve understood that slows are kind of just useless. They're not useless, but they're not as strong as they are intended to be because stamina is a thing in the game, right? And if you're slowed, well, you're just use stamina. And especially like one thing that we could talk about at some point as far as game mechanics is instant air dashes versus grounded dashes because they're completely different in terms of strength power. Like
Yeah.
instant air dashes are like infinitely better than grounded dashes. And that's like an easy difference between like high level players versus like pretty good players is like high level players are always going to be using air dashes. But regardless, so now they're implementing a lot of stamina slows or like dash slows as part of abilities that are intended to slow players because they understand, hey, just slowing movement speed doesn't really do enough. We need to actually slow the fast, movement, which is stamina. So I think Mo and Kroll with Max Sandblast and Echo Shard could be a thing. Just saying.
That would be really gross. But now that you mention it, like that does seem kind of sick. Um, all right. Well, we'll move on to the next hero, which is Paradox. Very minor
Yeah.
changes here. Carbine cooldown reduced by 3 seconds from 30 to 27. And then a slight buff to the time wall. The width of it, it's a little bit girthier now. So 7 meters to 7.5 meters. So just very minor number changes that,
Yep.
you know, we'll see if it makes too much of a difference. I think the more significant thing is the time wall being slightly larger. Like you might be able to block more corridors with it or more areas of the map with it, make it a little bit more difficult to play around. But yeah, not too much to really talk about on that one.
Yeah, I mean, they just kind of went, hey, I mean, maybe we should buff Holiday and Paradox for some reason. And then they were like, yeah, what do we buff? And then they were like, well, I mean, what if we just like remove 3 seconds off of one of their abilities? Like, that's pretty good, right? Or maybe it was just like literally Yoshi, just like, drinking eggnog and being like, yeah, I mean, the carbine's not really that much of a problem, right? Like, we probably buff
This
it by
hero's
three
really
seconds.
balanced.
Honestly, that's how I imagine like that they do balance. Like it's probably a pretty small team of people, and a lot of them are probably on vacation. So this patch was probably just like Yoshi, just like on like Gabe's yacht at like 2 a.m. drinking his eggnog, being like, yeah, I mean, we could probably buff Paradox Carbine. So I mean, it's a buff to Paradox. I don't really think Paradox needed the buff.
Uh,
I don't really think Holiday needed the buff either, to be fair. But hey, I mean, they got the buff, so why not? Why not? We'll see what happens.
do you want to talk about 7? Do you want to do the 7 changes?
I'm down. I'm down to talk about 7. I mean, I feel like it's kind of your hero, not mine. But I'll talk about it, and then you can tell me what you think.
Okay.
So Lightning Ball Tier 3 increased from 1 meter to 1.5. So now, I mean, the ball already got huge. I'm gonna be honest. Like, the ball already had like insane scaling. Like, if you just bought like expansion and like even just any range item, it would already be like the entire map. It felt like, but now it's even bigger. And
Nice.
it might not seem like much because it's only 0.5 meters more, but the thing is, it then gets multiplied by any range that you have. So 0.5 meters is actually a lot. However, so they're putting more power into the ball to incentivize people to go for it a little bit more. They're taking away a little bit of power from Power Surge, which now has 10% spirit resist reduction instead of 15. Now, this is a big deal for a few reasons, but I'm curious your thoughts on it because I've got my own thoughts and we'll see if we kind of align. And then Storm Cloud, which is 7 ult, got buffed overall, which I find a bit interesting. But what are your thoughts overall?
So I think the best build for 7 still was predominantly Power Surge, like by a pretty significant margin. I think the Power Surge build was the best. The only thing you really had to deal with was a capacitor, and if no one hits you with a capacitor, you're free to do whatever you want.
A capacitor
Um,
no longer removes your power surge.
oh
That's
well,
cursed now.
all right, yeah. Well then, never mind. So yeah, like basically Power Surge was a very easy way to get a ton of shred out in fights, and it just amplified your entire team's damage. And that was like one of the main things that
Mhm.
made this hero really strong. And he has so many built-in like shreds that you can add that will work with it. So you have like bullet resist shred, you can get suppressor and different types of debuffs, heal bane that all apply just
Yeah.
from one ability. And then it natively had 15% spirit shred as well. So it made it very difficult
Yeah.
to just fight into a 7 team. Um, because he could shred your whole team from distance. So I do think he was the like a lot of his power was kind of deceptive where people were like, "Oh, he's not doing that much damage," but then like you realize your entire team's losing like 15 to 20% spirit and bullet resist in every fight. Like if he's playing the hero, correctly. So, um
So there's a small thing I have to add on that, which is something that people don't think about when they see shred changes or resistant changes, but it's the jungle. Okay, so
yeah,
the jungle over the last couple of patches has been buffed significantly to have more spirit resist, like multiple times. Like now the tier 3 camps have a lot of spirit resist base. I think they might have like
60?
50% or
I
something
think there's
crazy.
60 or
Uh,
something, yeah.
There might be it's a very high number. Like they have a lot of spirit resist, and that's one of the reasons why Victor, for example, is not as strong right now. Like he like Victor really struggles to farm these camps, especially early. Like it's just not really possible. But Seven had innate spirit shred, and while armor is still good against shred, shred is better the more armor you have. Basically, the more resist you have, the better shred is against that. It's a little bit complicated, and we could get into that topic. And I've gotten into that topic on my main channel, and I probably will again. But regardless, all I will say about that is that hurts Seven's farming speed too,
Yep.
which is part of what makes Seven a problem, especially in matchmaking, especially at lower ranks, is the fact that he can just clear the jungle instantly. So this will hurt that a little bit. But what do you think about the old changes, old buffs? Did you expect that?
I was kind of shocked because I actually did feel like there were some games where you would go like ball and ult build and it still feels pretty viable and pretty good. Uh and the ult not only getting like base DPS 90 to 95, tier 3 DPS 54 to 65, and then also increased move speed during the tier 3, which the move speed during tier 3 might be the biggest buff if you are actually going to go like tier 3, because it allows people to, it pretty much prevents anyone from hiding from your ult. Like you can't hide from 7 Stormcloud unless you can get inside of a building once he has, tier 3. Uh I'm shocked on this, honestly. I don't think the ult needed a buff. So
Nice
I
one. You're shocked.
yeah, I will
Okay.
definitely be playing like ball and ult build on 7 again because it like I don't think the power surge build is dead by any means. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm building way more gun investment on this hero anyway. Because I think like bullet shred
Yeah.
is actually way stronger for clearing jungles than spirit shred anyway. But uh, this is kind of cool. I think it gives him a little bit more variety, but the ult is absurdly strong now.
Yeah. I mean, for me, with the ult changes, my opinion on this is I'm very surprised because the ult is kind of like the I mean, there's no nice way to put this, but it's kind of the noob stomper ability,
Yeah.
right? Where, historically, I mean, we've all gone through this, right? I'd love to do like a little graph of like the average Deadlock player's journey, but like we start playing Deadlock and we're like, what is this 7 hero? Like, what am I supposed to do when he ults? Like, he just kills everyone.
You
Like, what
just
am I supposed to do? The ult, he's the god of lightning, you
yeah.
know, death to my enemies. And then you are like, oh, the ult's actually like not that good. You can just like knock him down, or you can just hide. Um, but it is kind of like the bane of like lower ranks, where 7 just ults in the air and kills everyone. And even at higher ranks, like if he has a late game build with unstoppable infuser, like the ult did a lot of damage already. Like it's a very powerful kind of team fight ability. So the buffs are interesting for sure. I do think that like a more support oriented 7 with like ult could resurface a little bit. It was already not dead. I actually played it. Like I think people have kind of forgotten about the stun 7.
The echo
So guys,
shard
if you want to,
stun.
terror, yeah. If well, yeah, you can go echo shard. You don't necessarily need to, but you can. But guys, if you want to terrorize your matchmaking games, I mean, go like stun, go like range and apply debuffs and stuff, and max your stun, max your ult, and just play for the fights. And I think that has a fair amount of potential. You just play for the team fights, and you're just like a really, really like strong team fighter. The only problem with that build is really kind of like the earlier game, and the fact that you might not be that useful early. But I think you're still fine. But anyhow, don't want to spend too much time on it, so I think we'll just move on to the next hero if you want to get done with this, which is the magician,
Sinclair.
Sinclair,
Yeah.
the magnificent Sinclair. Uh, so I used to play a lot of Sinclair. Actually, like when Sinclair first came out, I kind of dropped him a while ago just because basically whenever support Sinclair kind of got hit like very significantly, I kind of dropped him. because that's how I like to play Sinclair. I didn't really like to play the Bolt build, but anyway, the Bolt build is also fine. I just thought he was kind of janky, and I didn't really like it that much. But what got buffed is mostly the Bolt build. So first of all, Sinclair gets more spirit power per boon now. He went from 1.1 to 1.3. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there's 35 boons. So that means that he gets a
Yeah.
total of 7 more spirit. So, 7 more spirit is not nothing, especially when you go boundless. That gets multiplied. So, it's something. So it's a little bit more spirit. He also got a fairly big change, which is Vexing Bolt now only snaps to heroes, but the initial velocity is reduced. So it's not as fast, but you can't accidentally like direct it towards a trooper or direct it towards a jungle camp, which is something that happened fairly often before. And then on top of that, the bolt max duration was increased by 1 second, so the bolt just lasts longer. You have more time to redirect it. And then the rabbit hex got buffed a little bit. So, not crazy buffs, but very nice quality of life, especially for the bolt.
This is I've only played Sinclair a couple times, and yeah, the jank on the bolt is still there for sure, but people that are good at finally like making it work, this is going to be a nice like quality of life change for the being able to hit the correct target type of thing. So Sinclair
Yeah.
players will be happy to hear that. The last player of the patch, the last hero of the patch, Yamato, getting some pretty solid buffs. So the tier 3 slash bonus damage was nerfed. From 166 to 150, but it now increases spirit power scaling by 0.5. Now,
Yep.
I thought when I read this, I was like, oh, this is like Nerf's Gun Yamato or something. But yeah, you mentioned you're like, by the time you have like boons and stuff, it's basically a wash. You're always going to end up doing more damage, right?
Yeah. Depending on how many boons you have. I mean, you need 32 spirit, right? Like if you let's see how much spirit Yamato gets. I mean, you get 38 spirit from max boons. So you do need a lot of boons to kind of recover for it. You probably need to be like 40k souls for Gun Yamato, but to be honest, if you were playing Gun Yamato, you weren't really maxing the power slash anyway. You were going for all the other
Like
abilities.
flying strike and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so it's more so just like incentivizing. Like they're seeing a lot of like tank Yamato being played right now, and maybe they're like, hey, we want Yamato to feel a little bit more incentivized to max her power slash. And so I think that the improved spirits power scaling is kind of like a nice way to go about it. I'm generally like a pretty big fan of this because it actually incentivizes you to invest into an ability, right, and just get a bunch of spirit power. So we'll see. It definitely will make Yamato stronger overall. And there's a world in which Yamato can actually like do some crazy damage to you. Like if she just goes like max power slash right away and she just gets her spirit 4.8k. I mean, let me just do that real quick so I can have an idea of how much damage that's doing. And she's buying just like normal items. Her power slash will be doing 500, a little bit over 500 damage. Whereas I don't have the exact numbers previously, but I'm going to guess that it was less. And our power slash scaling is 2.4 now when you max it. So that's very, very high scaling. So
That's
when you get like
ridiculous.
super late game and you have boundless and you have enchanters and you have all these other items, right? And you get to like 200 spirit, your power slash can easily be doing over 700 damage.
Please have mercy on everybody. That's pretty nice.
Yep.
The last buff to the hero, not anything super significant, but the transformation heal on kill is increased from 12 to 15%. Very situational, but the idea is, if she does get a kill during shadow transformation, she's rewarded just slightly more. But now that you have more damage on power slash, probably gonna happen.
That's true. That was kind of it for the update. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, we talked about that update for longer than I expected. We were kind of like, oh, are we gonna have enough content? Like there wasn't really that many complaints on Reddit this week, etc. But we definitely have now. Let us know what you guys think about just discussing the update in this much length. Like, was it too much? Was it good? Did you guys enjoy hearing the thoughts? Let us know in the comments. We're always we're pretty much reading every single comment. We got like over 180 comments last episode. I mean, I personally read pretty much every single one of them. I think rkryptic as well, probably.
It's
Maybe
true.
not.
I
Who
did.
knows? Maybe he
No.
ignored a couple. But
Yeah, I specifically deleted some. I'm not going to say who's
right.
but I just go and I
Of
randomly just
course.
hit delete.
Yeah. It's like a raffle.
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
get deleted. But that brings us to the something I hinted at in the intro, which is news on the big coming patch. Okay, so we know there's a patch coming in January, but I get asked all the time, hey, when can we expect the patch? Do you think it's going to be early January, mid January, late January? Is it going to be, January 7th specifically? And obviously, I don't know the exact date. I don't even think Valve knows the exact date. In fact,
Definitely not.
we got a message from Yoshi yesterday on Discord. And he does this all the time where he just replies to a random message on Discord with actually pretty good info. So I'll read the message word for word, so nothing gets misconstrued. So he got asked on a scale of 1 to 10 how many days until the update or something like that, and he replied, not really any new info or estimates to share since last time, as it's been an off period. Most devs will be back after the first week of January, and then we will continue the work we were doing. A bit after some more work is done, we will have a better estimate for the shipping windows. So sometime in January is still the best we can guess at this moment. So
Yeah.
what that means is, well, we can kind of extrapolate a couple things, right? So first week of January means I think it's pretty unlikely that we see this update before kind of mid-January, right? Because if you assume okay, first week of January, does he mean starting January 4th? I think that's what most people mean when they talk like that, right? He's not talking about January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, which is this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. He's probably talking about the week of January 4th. So that's when people are going to be back. And so I think it's very reasonable. It would be very reasonable to expect the update after, January, kind of 11th at the earliest.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. I think the that week of the 11th and the 18th, that kind of second, third week area is
Yeah.
where it's a lot more likely.
Yeah.
It really just comes down to how much was done in December, how close they actually got to finishing the update. And I think with what Yoshi kind of said previously, it feels like they actually got a lot of it completed in terms of what they wanted, but they just had a little bit of
Yeah.
polish left. So it could
Yeah.
very well be all right, we're coming back. We'll, week 2, and it's only going to take a few days and boom, patches out. But we don't know, right?
Yeah.
It could literally be anywhere from that 15th all the way until the 30th, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, it really could be anytime. What we do know about Valve is that they don't like shipping an update before they feel it's ready.
Yeah.
So they're not going to ship it before it's ready. Now, when is it going to be ready? We don't really know. But yeah, I would, basically, my interpretation of Yoshi's message is that do not expect an update anytime before January 11th. That's what I would expect. And I think any time after January 11th is a fair guess. Now, I would guess, Tuesdays and Thursdays are usually the most likely, but that doesn't necessarily, that's not necessarily true. I believe the last major update, which was the 6-year update, was released on a Monday. I'm pretty sure that I remember I was at the grocery store, just chilling, doing my groceries. I was like, oh, I know there's an update, probably that's gonna come soon, but when is it gonna come? Who knows? You never really know when the update is gonna come. Everybody kind of feels it. We need someone like Dota. Dota has T Governor that does the stream, update waiting room. We need someone like that.
Yeah.
So that I can know.
We had an update Monday at 10:30 p.m. Valve time.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's your guess is as good as mine. They're gonna patch the game the moment they're like, "Yep, it's done," and it could be any day of the week. We have no clue. So
Yeah.
at least something to look forward to as we get into the new year.
Yeah.
That patch, is gonna be a banger, I'm sure. Speaking of the end of the year, though, the holiday event, one of the next things I
Yeah.
want to talk about, I think we've kind of talked about the goods and the bads of the event so far, but I wanna talk about the heroes, because one thing that is really cool about this event is that it got people to try new heroes, maybe heroes that they played a long time ago and finally revisited. So let's talk about the surprises. Were there any heroes that you were surprised when you got to play them, either for the first time or again, and be like, you know what, this is a cool hero. I like the way that I like the way it feels. Was there any hero that stood out to you?
Definitely not McGinnis. That's all I'm gonna
Okay.
say. I played McGinnis yesterday. I hated it.
Oh
I
no.
mean, I'm not. I mean, I got my ornament. I got my ornament, but I didn't like it. But as far as any heroes that I particularly enjoyed, I really liked kind of playing Abrams again. It had been a while. I do, to be fair, Abrams is not a hero that I haven't played. I actually have a decent amount of games on him. I have 77 games. I just checked. but I just hadn't played him in a while, right? Like
Yeah.
I played Abrams like way back. Like most of my Abrams games are probably in the 4-lane map. So yeah, re-exploring him was a lot of fun. I'm at let's see, I'm at 25 out of 32 for the challenge, so I'm kind of done with most of the heroes, and I've pretty much played at least all of the heroes. It's just that some heroes I haven't won on yet. But I think Abrams, I mean Page, I really like Page. What I honestly I really like being a support. Um the only reason I don't really play support is just because it's much harder to play support. I mean, this might sound like kind of arrogant, but like when you're very high rank, like on average, you are like I am one of the highest ranked players like in the lobby or on my team. Okay, not always. Sometimes I get in lobbies with like a bunch of really good players, and then playing support's fine. But sometimes I'll get in lobbies that are like kind of like low to mid Eternus, in which I am the highest ranked player in the game. And if I'm on support, that feels kind of bad.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the only thing. But I really enjoy playing support. So, you know, when matchmaking improves or whatever, like I'll probably play a lot more support. Yeah, what about you? Is there any heroes that you were like, man, I didn't remember this hero was that fun?
The like first one that actually stood out to me was Viscous. It was like a hero that I actually despised initially. I just did not like there were so many things wrong with like the ball, and I honestly, the ball is still very confusing to me. But it's not how he's supposed to be played. But I played him as a gun hero, and
No, same.
I feel like Viscous gun is actually insane. Like he's
Oh, it
free
is.
headshots. Puddle punch is just like basically a stun on any hero you want to kill, and it's free.
Yep.
Like I might just
Hmm.
throw him into my carry rotate or like my gun hero rotation because he's really strong in lane, and everything about him just feels really easy to kind of like wrap your head around, and then you
Yeah.
have divine barrier on cube basically, and now you
Yeah.
have the ability to just turn into goo ball and run away if you're ever in trouble. Like it kind of feels a little unfair, but um yeah, Viscous was the one that really stood
Yep.
out to me as a gun hero. I was like, wow, I kind of I thought it was more of a meme, but that legitimately felt really, really strong.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I played Gun Viscous, and I ended up making a video about how gun builds are boring because it's basically always the same thing, and there's kind of like an optimal way to build gun, and there's not really a lot of diversity just because of the way the weapon investment is, and you know, just kind of like fire rate is pretty optimal. Like you want to get fire rate, you
Yeah.
want to get you know, resist shred, and then that's pretty much it. Like you've pretty much completed your build because you just get weapon damage from the weapon investment, so you don't even really need to think about weapon damage, and it's good to get more, of course. But for example, glass cannon is such a staple because it also gives you fire rate if you get stacks, so it kind of solves all your problems, and then you just get shred, and you know, kinetic dashes is extremely overstated. But not to kind of like derail. But yeah, so Gun Viscous was also fun. I also enjoyed playing Gun Viscous. Like it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, I don't know if there were too many others that were like big standouts. I haven't got. It's weird because Abrams was also one of my most played heroes. I think he's still like my third most played, and I haven't played him in almost a year. And it's I'm kind of waiting until he pops back up in my rotation just to like get that feeling and be like, oh yeah, I missed this guy, you know. But I've just been
Yeah,
hitting the all random button. It's just giving me a bunch of heroes I've never played. So we'll see.
yeah,
You know, eventually I'll get to Abrams.
yeah. I mean, I've also kind of like hit the all random, and I think it's kind of fun. So, um, moving on to I think the next topic, which is the curiosity corner, because I see the kind of time progressing in the episode. And you know, I've got a decent amount to talk about, and then we'll have like kind of closing thoughts as well.
Yeah.
So curiosity corner, for those of you that aren't familiar, so generally we have like a kind of like a Reddit complaints or complaint box or whatever, you know. But this week there wasn't too much because I think people are just on holiday and just waiting for the next big update. So there's not too much. I'm sure whenever we get the next big update, I'm sure there'll be plenty of things to talk about. But
Yeah.
um, for now, we're kind of skipping that segment this week, and we're going straight into the Curiosity Corner, which is a segment in which we talk about one hero and one item. Now, I read a few of your comments that were talking about how, you know, um, like I'm sort of considering, like, is it talking about a hero that's like, is it just talking about a hero, or is it talking about a hero whose design we don't like, or is it talking about a hero whose situation is weird? And to be honest, I don't know if I really want to kind of limit ourselves with any specific criteria. The more I think
Agreed.
about it, I think we just talk about one hero and one item, that we just feel like talking about for whatever reason, whether it's because either they're really strong or really weak. I think both would be valid reasons to talk about them. So the hero and item that we chose this week are Great Talon and Magic Carpet. So we went on the kind of like weaker side because I think it's always interesting to talk about how can you make things that are weak stronger without, ruining the fun of the game. So I'll first start with the overall kind of like initial premise, which is Great Talon. We talked about it earlier. There was a little bit of a spoiler, but we mentioned, hey, Great Talon used to one-shot you from halfway across the map. He doesn't really do that anymore. He still does a lot of damage though. But that wasn't really fun. So how can they make Great Talon more fun while and stronger while not making it unfun to getting one shot, right? Do you have any
Yeah.
ideas on that front?
I mean, my initial thought was, all right, well, let's make his gun build viable, or basically
Mhm.
add spirit scaling into other parts of his kit, while reducing
Okay.
spirit scaling on say charge shot. So, like you
Okay.
can, if you want to make him a spirit focused hero, or give him viable spirit builds, like just nerf the charge shot a little bit, but then add spirit scaling elsewhere. It's weird because the spirit scaling on uh what's his air ability? I literally just looked at this earlier. Rain
It's
of Arrows.
Rain of Arrows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if you add spirit scaling to that, he's basically just Vindicta in a way, and it's like, I like what's the point, in a way. So
Sure.
I don't know.
Sure. Um, Yeah, I mean, I think that with Great Talon, it's there's a couple things to consider, right? The biggest thing with Charge Shot, his first ability, is that it just doesn't really feel like there's counterplay. For example, Vindicta ult, right, is basically Charge Shot. Okay, so they're kind of the same ability, first of all, except Vindicta ult actually like requires you to be like below half to do significant damage, right? So it's more of a finisher,
Yeah,
and it's also her ultimate. And so there's a couple differences there, right? So it's her ultimate, and it also like requires you to be like kind of below half, whereas Charge Shot is not his ultimate, and it does the same amount of damage no matter how healthy you are. Um, One idea that there's a few like possible avenues that you can use to kind of like fix this. I think that one possible avenue that you could go is you could add some fall off to a Charge Shot, right? But then that kind of goes against the idea of being a sniper, so I don't know if I really like it. So I'm just like naming different avenues. So like that part, I'm not sure if I love it, but that's one avenue that you could possibly have. You have the avenue of what you said, which is, hey, you just buff other stuff about him, which is kind of what they did. Like they're like, okay, we want him to be stronger, but we know Charge Shot is kind of like cancer when it's too good, so let's just buff everything else. Okay, so they kind of did that. um I like the idea of like a support Great Talon personally, like, but like with the guided owl and the trap and everything, like I kind of want to see that explored a little bit more. I saw like some people playing Trap Talon for the challenge, and honestly, it really doesn't look that bad. And I'm kind of like want that to be explored a little bit more. And like, what do you do in mid boss if like the Talon just has like two traps in the pit? Like you actually like can't do anything. Like you literally cannot contest it. You can't touch the crystal.
yeah, you just get cursed, right? It's and a curse to anyone who touches that thing, and it is really, really, really strong. And he can self detonate it too. I do think they need to improve the targeting on the detonation for it, so it's a little bit easier to trigger off your own charge shot. But it's still one of those things that like they buffed the spirit snare so many times to compensate for the fact that they kept nerfing his charge shot because it was way too good. And now spirit snare is like a legit ability, but
Hmm.
give it like this is like the only hero really that has like this type of mechanic built into a base ability.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly think like it's like going into more interesting routes like that. So like obviously like we kind of like there we don't really know the impacts of the buff that Great Talon got in this patch because it's been it just came out like yesterday at a ridiculous time. So we'll see like if that is, but I think it's in the right direction in the sense that it's buffing other things. It's not buffing the parts of Great Talon's kit that are very unfun, being charge shot to play against, and it's helping the character have some diversity. And I think Guided Owl is a really cool ability, and I like Guided Owl like being strong as long as it's obviously balanced with like a cooldown that's reasonable, etc., etc. It's not really fun if like Great Talon can just build completely around Guided Owl, but getting a little bit extra spirit on the kill feels nice. 5 didn't feel like that much, so 8 is like very significant buff. Like imagine if you just get like 3 or 4 like owl kills, all of a sudden you get 4. Well, you got 32 spirit. Like that's a lot of spirit.
It. I had like a quick image of just thinking of a Grey Talon just sitting in the fountain meditating, and all he does is just like send owls
Yeah.
out every few minutes, like just rush. I'm just like that would be
I mean, that was a thing before.
yeah, it's like, we could get there. He just sits back, throws some charge shots if you get anywhere near his base, and then just owls you, and you're like, oh, neat. I agree. I
Yeah.
think guided owl is one of the coolest abilities in the entire game. It legitimately is. So I really am glad that it hasn't been like removed or reworked significantly, and giving it a little bit more damage is always nice.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Um, as far as other things like they could look at with Grey Talon, I personally just really don't like Rain of Arrows because it just feels extremely awkward in a game like Deadlock. Now, I'm curious what you guys think in the comments, but the thing with Rain of Arrows is that it's really one of the few abilities in the game that just makes you like very like immobile. Like it just feels very clunky. Like you use Vindictive Flight, for example, you don't feel clunky. But you use Grey Talon and Rain of Arrows, you just feel like you're kind of standing there, and it's very clunky. And like you said, they added some evasion so that hey, you can't just get shot as easily because you're effectively like a immobile target outside of stamina usage. Like you can use stamina, but other than that, you're basically immobile. And I just don't really like it. Like I just think that ability needs to be reworked into something else because it just doesn't really feel good to use. Like I never feel like, oh man, I'm so excited to use my my 2, even if I'm like Grey Talon gun build. Like people just like run away, and there's like warp stones and stamina masteries and like all these things, and I'm just like, man. And so many things, so many fights happen in buildings and stuff, and I'm just like, I have the mobility of like
A slug.
yeah, slug. It feels really bad.
It does.
The only thing that the Rain of Arrows has that Vindicta doesn't have is you can actually parry during Rain of Arrows, for those of you that didn't know. And so, for example, Counterspell is better on a Grey Talon than it is on Vindicta because you don't even have to cancel your Rain of Arrows. So if they have knockdown, you can just buy a Counterspell and you can parry during your Rain of Arrows and it won't cancel it. Fun fact.
Nice. Yeah, that's I actually didn't know that, so that's kind of cool. Not a Grey Talon enjoyer, so never had much experience on that. Um, I always like it's one of those things where it's like we could speculate if they're gonna rework Grey Talon in some way,
Yeah.
like Rain of Arrows and Spirit
Yeah.
Snare. Like my initial thought when I heard the like you hear the ability of Rain of Arrows, it's like an archer shooting a bunch of arrows that like come down into a
Yeah.
zone, and it's like that was my immediate thought. And maybe that's like your new Spirit Snare in some ways. Like
Oh,
it's a AoE targetable ability that just like hits the area or something, and that's the new Rain of Arrows. Like I don't
really like
know.
that.
I think the fact that like once you go into the air on Grey Talon, like you said, it doesn't feel good because if you want to stay in a fight, you have to blow through all of your stamina, like just to chase
Yeah.
after people, and then you're like stuck in the middle of a fight with 0 stamina, and if you didn't kill like 3 heroes during that, you're screwed. So it's a very awkward ability to use, and it kind of requires the enemy team to make a mistake in their positioning or their movement to actually die to him when he's in the air.
Yeah.
So it's, the counterplay is not the counterplay is really just like play the game correctly in a way, which is really awkward.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to see like a different like weapon scaling type of ability to replace it, and maybe make charge shot like a hybrid scaling ability as well. Like we have Billy with bash down where it's like a physical damage and spirit damage ability. Like do you make charge shot a weapon and spirit scaling ability but like reduce the numbers type of thing?
Yeah.
I feel like there is some potential there because he could be a really good hybrid hero. Um
Yeah.
but right now he's kind of pigeonholed one way or the other.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, yeah, to me, making him a good hybrid hero would not necessarily be a priority. I mean, they could go that route. Um, but one thing I do like your suggestion of like Rain of Arrows, like just being kind of like another AoE ability. Like it'd be cool if they would just like, went a little further into like, okay, Grey Talon is an area control hero. And Rain of Arrows could be an ability that you just target, and it's like a pretty big AoE, and it like rains arrows down, and the arrows scale off of weapon damage, for example, right? Because so it still gives you like an incentive to build weapon. It's like, hey, these arrows kind of auto target in that region, and they do weapon damage. That could be a cool idea because I just don't like the current rain of arrows at all. And I mean, Great Talon players in the chat, let me know if you guys enjoy rain of arrows because I'm very curious if people actually like the ability.
What if we just have it all
'Cause
wrong?
I played it for the challenge, and honestly, the ability just like felt like really like unfun. And I just played Gun of Great Talon, and I kind of got carried, to be honest. But I mean, I don't, it's playable for sure. But regardless, it just didn't feel like a fun ability to use. So I'm curious what you guys' thoughts in the comments are.
Yeah, I am too. It'll be interesting. The last one you mentioned that we're going to talk about, the item being Magic Carpet, and
Yep.
this is,
Yep.
boy, this item. Where do we even start? This is one of those items that feels like it's only purchasable on just a handful of heroes, and outside of that, people buy it as like a gimmick. Be like, haha, like I'm running away because like either we're so far ahead and you can't deal with it, or we're losing and I'm just gonna fly around the map for fun, right? Like I don't
Yep.
know what the purpose or what like the goal of this item is supposed to be right now, I think.
Right. I think the first part of the discussion, first of all, I'm just gonna read off the stats for anybody watching.
Yeah.
So Magic Carpet, because you guys don't really probably not buy it very often. So basically, it gives you 15% ability duration, 14 spirit power, and 75 bonus health. So the actual stats that it gives you are not bad at all. Like those are pretty good for a tier 4 item. Then it allows you to fly for 8 seconds, and it's got a 32-second cooldown. And while you're flying, you move 7 meters per second faster than your move speed. And you can get other things to move even faster. For example, Veil Walker, like Enduring, whatever. Like you can faster. Now what you said is 100% correct. It is bought only on a handful of heroes, right? Like the most popular ones probably are Sinclair and Moan Krill.
Yeah.
Are the two heroes that I see buy it at a somewhat regular frequency. And other than that, it is a gimmick. Now, I think the discussion should be, are like for fun items, do they have a place in Deadlock? Because it is a for fun item. Like the reality is, if this item, if Magic Carpet ever becomes meta, I don't think the game will be in a good spot. Like
No.
I'm just gonna be honest. Like I don't think the game would be in a good spot. If everybody's buying Magic Carpet, the game is gonna be like extremely goofy, and people are just gonna be running away, and like it's gonna be crazy. So you can't have this item actually be like that good, right? It needs to be fairly niche. But at the same time, you can't have it be useless because then like literally nobody would buy it, and then what's the point of having the item in the game? So right now, I think balance wise, it's actually fine. The discussion, in my opinion, is more, hey, are for fun items, like, do they have a place in Deadlock? And in my opinion, they do. Yeah. Like, I think it's fine that Magic Carpet's not that good, but it's a very fun item. Like, if you've ever bought Magic Carpet and, like, you use it and it works, you know the feeling of just, like, you're flying around and it's just so funny. Like, someone chases you and you just run away from them with Magic Carpet and you're kind of, like, giggling, I think it's great.
I can't get the images out of my head of like 4 Magic Carpets on each team, and like a team fight breaks out and you're just like everyone just flying
playing
through
Quidditch or whatever from Harry Potter,
just, it just turns into Quidditch, and that's the whole game. And then like there's a Vindicta and a Grey Talon also in the air, and you're just like everyone's flying around at each other like that. It would be hilarious. And maybe that's something we'll get when we have custom game modes, which we mentioned. Maybe they'll implement that. We'll just have Magic Carpet ride,
Magic Carpet Wars.
Yeah, and that's fun. I do agree that like fun items should be in the game. I agree that also that they should not be good in the general sense for multiple heroes or like super meta. But it's funny seeing a Mo like burrow right into a Magic Carpet and then just fly away at Mach speed, and there's nothing you can do about it.
The flying Eminem.
Yeah, right. So there are use cases for it. I agree, but everyone's had
and the
those
use cases are like I mean, like it is viable on a few other heroes, right? Like it's not completely useless. Like for example, I have bought it on Lash a few games. Obviously, usually when I'm winning and like we're about to end, I buy it. But it's not that crazy because you can use it to just like get to the skybox and then use your ground strike from there. For especially after like Majestic Lead being nerfed, it kind of gives you a way to just like get to the skybox, and also like when you fly at people with Magic Carpet, people get scared. right? Like you can just fly towards them and people are like, oh my god, there's a flying lash like going at me. So it has kind of like aura in that sense.
Yeah.
But there's not really any item that I can compare to Magic Carpet in the game, in the sense that I don't really think that there are other items that I would describe as for fun. Like I think Trophy Collector would be the closest, but I don't really think Trophy Collector is a for fun item. Like it's a soul generation item, so it will always have like a place on the meta depending on how it's used. It's just the only reason I would describe it as a for fun item is because of the sound.
Yeah.
It gives you that dopamine.
You're like, oh yeah, wasn't even near that fight, but I got myself some free
Plus one, plus
trophies.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. I'm also like trying to think of other heroes that could potentially use Magic Carp. I feel like Viscus is one of the others, right? Where he just
Yeah, Viscous can, yeah.
yeah, he just goes into the goo ball, and I think Max Ball allows you to use items. Is that correct?
It does, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Max
So
Ball allows you to use items, and it used to be a build to go Magic
yeah.
Carpet and Viscous.
So it's like
People don't really do it anymore.
I recognize. I was like, I think I've seen a flying goo ball running around the map before. So it's like that's one of the others. We just don't really see it, but you know, if they want to keep it in the game, I guess that sounds okay with me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just a fun item, and I don't really think that the item needs significant changes. I think it's actually in a pretty good spot right now. I just wanted to talk about it because I think it's a very interesting item, and I'm wondering if you guys think should they add more for fun items, right? Because Deadlock, to me, it's very obvious. Deadlock is designed as a competitive game.
Yeah.
Just like a lot of Valve games, right? It's designed to be competitive. However, that doesn't mean there shouldn't be goofy stuff. And I think that, there's going to be multiple audiences they're going to try to appeal to. And of course, the competitive audience will be a big one, but there's also going to be like a more casual audience that just wants to have a good time. And I think Magic Carpet really allows that audience to have like a better time. And I would be down for a couple more items like that. Maybe not too many, but like a few, maybe like a more like for fun weapon item, maybe a more for fun, vitality item, maybe one in each category could be cool. If you guys have any item ideas that you think would be kind of goofy but not too strong, right? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go fun maxing build now, where I get all the 4 fun items on every hero, and that's all I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
it'd be cool. I love it. As for the whole episode, I mean, that pretty much brings us to the end. That is everything that we wanted to cover,
Yeah.
at least today. We had some other talking points that we were gonna maybe get to, but skipped it because of the surprise patch we had at almost midnight last night. So, at least going forward, we can expect a new episode next week on Tuesday, as we always do. So I want to say thank you all so much for
Yeah.
listening, and make sure to subscribe to both the YouTube channel as well as anywhere else that you're listening, if you're listening in podcast form. Um, Final thoughts, Deathy, before we
Yeah. I mean, final thoughts. This is the last time we'll be last podcast episode in 2025. We're going to 2026. Hopefully 2026 is a great year for Deadlock. I'm very excited, very hopeful for the future. I think the game's going in a great direction, and I'm just happy to be here. So that's it. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday season. At home, I hope you guys are spending time with your family, loved ones, etc. And if you're not, then I hope that maybe this podcast can at least bring you a little distraction, because I know sometimes holidays can be a little tough for people that are in tougher situations, whether it's financially or with your family or whatever, and can feel lonely. So if you're in that spot, just know that my thoughts are with you, and it'll get better. It'll get better.
yeah, absolutely. And yeah, thank you all so much for joining us. Happy New Year. We'll see you in 2026.